yeah. Okay, we're on the record, Mayor.
Very good, thank you. We're going to continue with opposed testimony. Brian Sheets.
Can you call the time, please, Mayor?
Sure, 7:18.
Thank you.
We're back on the record. Thanks, Jessica.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Councilors. First, my name is Brian Sheets. I live at 24184 Willis Creek Street, so that's directly north of this proposed project. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for your service to your community, for your long-standing commitment, and your prior actions on this very similar application. And so when I talk about the actions on this, we've had three different separate decisions with this. We've had a planning commission decision, we've had your own decision, and we've had another planning commission decision. And I want you to trust yourselves on those, because they were the right decisions. The applicant was given the explanation as to what they could do to come forward and bring the project here, so for approval, as to do R1. The audacity that they resubmit an application and that the city would even entertain it, not going to that effect, sort of shocks my conscience to think that we're going through this again. So I did leave written comments in there in your packet. I hope you had a chance to do that, to review those, and I thank you for that attention to those. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. Matt Davis wants to testify. Matt?
Well, I'm Matt Davis. I live at 23641 on Court. I agree with pretty much everything that everybody has said so far. Met most of our neighbors recently during a neighborhood meeting, if you will. Learned a lot about this. Disappointed when we were looking for homes. We settled on Star for the simple fact that we knew our neighborhood and Faison was 1 acre. Everything behind us was going to be R1. No knowledge, no information given that it could potentially change, which apparently has been in place since 2019. It's no different than our road being a court, and then after we move in, the last house in our neighborhood, it gets switched to a private drive. We're now responsible for that street with no notification. So adding things like this kind of disappoint me that a small city like this would think, hey, this is the direction we want to go. There's a lot of neighborhoods on the side of Middleton. I understand we're Caldwell. I know we want to move over to that. We are built specifically for R1. I think it should remain as R1. I think it's dutiful for the city itself. I think it's also good for the kids. We walk our dogs across that roundabout that everybody's talked about so far. And I think just about every time we do so, we're pretty close to being hit. You can't see with that big, huge mound. So that would have to be reconstructed. What is going to happen with the waterway? That is behind us. Does the city still take care of that? Does that go away? Those aren't discussed. Why was there no proposal for exits on the north side? There's a lot of different things that I think can be put together on this. But I support my neighbors. I haven't known them long enough. Don't know everybody in this room. But I think you guys should definitely listen to the people who lived here for a long time. Or the newbies that just moved to your city because it's a beautiful place to be. So with that said, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions?
Welcome to town.
Okay. Tom and Kate Rye, Austin Guyles, and Todd Spalding are all signed up opposed. Do any of you need to testify to that effect, or is there enough testimony on the record for you? Let's start with Tom and Kate. Are you guys good, or you need to testify? How about Austin Guyles? You need to testify? Come on up.
Good evening, my name is Austin Lewis. I live at 13115 West 9th Street. My house is the last home in the R1 development. I will be the first house bringing up to the R3 development. Like my neighbor, we picked this house very intentionally. We picked this town intentionally. And the reason for that is we have two small children. One has autism. We picked this for safety. We picked that property for safety, this town for safety, this state for safety. Much like him, I feel like the road's being kind of pulled out from us because we were told R1, that seemed reasonable. We talk a lot about the traffic light. I agree with it, but the safety factor for our street, every house there has small children. Our children run across the street, they play. You're turning that into Emmett Road. You're turning that into 44. And that's not safe for our children that already live there. So I ask that you consider the safety of the children when making your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin.
Any questions?
Todd Spalding, opposed? Thank you, Todd. Appreciate that. Jose and Lisa Horiagu, did I come close? Are signed up, opposed, not to testify. Rafe is signed up to testify, he's opposed.
Mr. Mayor, they are my neighbor, Jose and Lisa. And they stepped out. I think they're gone.
It's duly noted on the record that they're opposed, and
Yes.
we'll weigh it that way.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike Grafe, 1889 Ridgeway. I guess I got more of a question than anything else. It was brought up, and I guess you could say it's a hypothetical case, but these folks, this is the third time they've come back, they want this to be R3. And it was mentioned that lots are gonna be approximately 11,000 square feet. Then it was also kind of mentioned that, well, if the economy, whatever, they get the R3 approved, and they end up selling the lot, the developer or the landowner or whatever, and the R3 goes with the land then. Well, does the R3 go with the land at a minimum lot size of 11,000 square feet? Or can that go back to the city code of a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet? That would make a difference of 2 houses every acre more, plus 2 houses more, if that went back to 8,000 square feet. And I don't know the answer to that, you know, maybe they can't, but that would be, the development agreement itself has to follow the property and stick with the property the entire time. I've lived here 9 years, and the subdivision I live in, there was some changes and whatever made. There's some lots, and the Toll Brothers are talking about that's Kittywampus from this subdivision on Willis Road. There's some lots in there that are in the 7,000 square foot, 5,000 square feet, 5,700 square feet and stuff like that. Now granted, those were waivers, and I've preached here every time I talk about being real particular about granting waivers. But all these folks that are talking about the schools and all that, you might have a factor of twice what they think they're talking about right now. If this would go from 11,000 to 8,000 or, you know, whatever. And there, I mean, there's no guarantees what the next administration or whatever will do. Waivers are granted and waivers are denied. Well, this one, 3 times, 3 strikes and you're out in baseball. And I think we ought to get the umpire to step in and call it out. This should not be approved. They had every opportunity to do what you guys told them they had to do, and they didn't do it. So that's it, that's what I got.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Grafe? You're good. Thank you very much, Mike. Scott and Tracy Poole are signed up against it. They don't want to testify.
We would concur with everything that's been said thus far. Thank you.
Art and Christy Valines are signed up against this and wish not to
Pretty much agree with
testify. They are against it. Dan and Sherry Crosley are signed up against it and wish to testify.
So, Dan Crossley, 13189 Willis Road. I live on the north side of this proposed debacle, and I own a pickup. And you know, you laugh about that, but that's really a valid point, because I'll tell you, my son lives in West Highlands, and he lives in the first, phase of West Highlands in that development. You drive through there, and I imagine this officer has probably driven through there. There's cars parked on the street, both sides, everywhere. And I would challenge our fire department to try to make it through there. High density projects like this, they're not all good. And I would say that this particular project, been denied 3 times already. And again, I said this last time I stood, you know, you guys are the gatekeepers of common sense development in this area. And we look to you to help us, because we're defenseless. I live in the county. A lot of these people live in the county. We really have no say in the city of Middleton, because we're not in the city of Middleton. Really don't want to be in the city of Middleton. I graduated from Middleton High School in 1978. Middleton was a rural community, and it was a rural community in a very positive and good way. Middleton is losing that feel because of all of the development. And I agree with everything that's been said. We just need to tap the brakes here. And if you want the best reason why, it's traffic. I got up this morning, I live on Willis Road right there, 8 o'clock this morning, or 7:45. The traffic was backed up from the roundabout west on Willis Road for a half mile, bumper to bumper to bumper to bumper. And it's all kids headed to school. And when it's on, and the other way, going the other way, for this police officer's information, going the other way, I can't tell you how many times I've seen kids passing, when they're headed the other direction, headed west from school. There's kids passing cars in front of my house. I live an 1/8 of a mile past west of that roundabout. It's just a raceway. It's a wreck. And the infrastructure does not support this. And so for that reason alone, council, please, you've got all kinds of representation here. Please deny this again. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cosley. Ray Thweet? Yeah, we don't clap and cheer at these things. Just take the testimony and move on. Ray Thweet, go ahead.
I'm Roy Thweet. I live
Roy,
at 1-3.
sorry.
That's fine. You got the last name right. I live at 13089 Lois Road, again on the north side. I'd like to thank you guys, because you kind of have a thankless job. And if you vote yes, everybody in this room is going to be highly irritated with you. And if you know, these guys are going to be happy. But I'd just kind of like to reiterate, you know, you gave them direction last year, this exact council, and they didn't take heed to it whatsoever. But I grew up in Middleton. I joined the Air Force. I was gone for about 24 years. Came back 10 years ago. And I've seen what growth does to a big city when you live on the outside of it. And I see that happening in this whole valley. You know, we're gonna have water problems in some places. So that's gonna be an issue coming up pretty soon. And I mentioned last year, these places that are being approved and everything else, do they really need 30, 40 feet of grass between the fence and the sidewalk? You know, why can't some of that be desert? You know, and developers, I think, should look at that, and you guys encourage them to go desert landscaping in those places that aren't common areas. But I really hope you guys listen to all the folks here that have talked. And experiences such as mine, where I have seen, you know, cities go the wrong way when it comes to development and unsupported development, infrastructure, schools, and everything else. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Roy. Mrs. Thweet, do you want to testify? But you agree with that? Very good. Kyle Restad.
I said no. I know you don't want to hear it, but I want to be yes. Okay.
Come on up, you bet.
I'll be brief. Kyle Rusted, 1660 Loch Ness Avenue. I am actually part of the problem. I moved here 3 years ago. We were the last home in phase 2 of Stonehaven. And I think when it's all said and done, we'll have about 350 homes. I, like quite a few other families, it's kind of growing. We're a homeschool family. So we talk about traffic. I've seen the traffic. I happen to be also a runner and a biker. I've got a dog. I've got active kids. My running route, bike route is, it will sound familiar in this project, it's 9th, Emmett, Willis, Hartwell. I give a lot of free rein with my daughter to be independent. She's now 11, and I would probably have no, it would be not a big stretch if I said, okay, Morgan, why don't you take the bike out and do the little route by yourself, trying to give her some ability to become independent. I tell you now, we go along that shoulder. There's no bike route. We go along the shoulder. We get to the roundabout. We're up on the curb. And I've seen people, when we talk about traffic, I mean, I've seen it morning, evening, any time of day. And I just felt compelled to be up here because I do not feel and I'm all for property rights and the ability to do what you want with your land to a certain extent. If this is about a continuity of R3, we're already in discussion for revamping the comprehensive plan, so that is a moot point. There is plenty of R3 there with the Toll Brothers and West Highlands and even Stonehaven, so that's a moot point too. It was R1 when it was purchased, and if it becomes county R1, I think we're okay with that. I also guarantee you, those high school kids are not walking up, going to the roundabout, coming back down. My kids aren't the most adventurous, and they're not the laziest, but I guarantee you, all these high school kids, they're taking the shortest path, which is right in the midst of there. So that is, I just want to come up and give that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Restad. Any questions for Kyle? David Louise is signed up against it. Doesn't wish to testify. David, do you want to raise your hand?
Yes.
Thanks, David.
I am against this, and everybody else has expressed it.
Thank you very much. Nicholas and Amber Avil are opposed. Do you wish to testify?
They had to leave, but they're.
Okay, perfect. They are signed up opposed, council. Darren Magra.
Yeah, I'm against it as well. I don't need to talk. But
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Aaron Spoor.
Yeah. Enough of this.
You're against it?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody that wishes to testify that didn't sign up, that wishes to sign up at this time? Mr. Sparrow, you'll sign in real quick. You can skip the rest of that.
Tyson Sparrow, 211 Campbell, here in Middleton. I just want to let the council know I'm definitely opposed to this development. One thing that I want to draw to your attention was in the presentation at this meeting tonight, when it was stated that the decision was septic, water, all of that the presenter mentioned that this isn't even something that this council governs at this point in time. So if it's the perception of the developer that the council doesn't govern over this particular property, and they're asking to be annexed into the city where this council would govern over it, then what is their intention with the property? Based on everything that I've seen with the multiple times coming to council, I want to echo what Janet has to say. I don't think they're here for this community. I think they're trying to flip the property, make some money because they made a terrible investment. And coming to the same body and asking for the same thing over and over again when you've been given resolutions to it is the definition of insanity. I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Mr. Sparrow? Thanks. Anybody else wish to testify?
I don't want to testify, but I want to say that I'm opposed.
Come on up, put your name on the record and say you're opposed, and we'll write it down. Just right there.
Oh.
Or you want to testify?
Oh, my
Just-
name is Autumn Casanova Davis. I live at 23641 Faison Court,
And you're opposed?
and I'm opposed.
All right, thank you very much. Did you catch that name? No. No.
Can I have
Autumn?
Come on up and
Just have her sign in the
Yeah,
record.
we'll have you sign in. That's my bad. I should have. You just sign in right over here folder.
I don't know, I had to have a difficult name.
I've been putting them up here for a little bit. There they are. Thanks, Autumn. You'll sign your name. They're here. I just have to find them. Maybe up to this pile. Here they are.
Oh,
Just sign in right there if you would.
It's just for the record.
just my name.
Just your
Name and address, please. And opposed on the side. So when she types up the minutes, she can reflect that.
I don't know what they were for.
Just opposed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, you're okay. You have every right to do that. Anybody else? All right, at 7:39, we're going to close public testimony. And now we'll have rebuttal from the applicant.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. There's a couple of things that I want to be able to address. First and foremost, I want to be able to reiterate kind of why we're here tonight. As much as what everyone is saying that you were able to give us direction regarding the R1 coming back, yes, we did take that into consideration, but I want to be able to put this into a larger perspective of kind of our thought processes I was trying to do in our initial presentation. If we were to go to R1, we have, the city staff has noted that every annexation that's going to be coming into the city is going to be binded by the rules of where, specifically in this direction, that there's going to be no development that occurs until that Highway 44, until the Emmett Road is constructed. Now, if we were to remain, if we wanted to be able to come and annex R1 under your recommendation from this last year, why would we, essentially? We could be able to keep the exact county designation with R1, the same amount of lots that we'd be able to do it with the city services. We'd be able to build cheaper. We wouldn't have to have any sort of cost. We wouldn't have to build a curb, gutter, sidewalk alongside. More importantly, we've got 12 acres that is bordering that most eastern part of that R1 that is next to the school. We are more than happy to be able to use that 12 acres for commercial grounds. Now, we sit here and we talk about traffic. Yes, back to the situation of why we're coming back with the R3. With an R1 designation within the county, again, we're not going to be asking for any zoning changes. We're not going to be asking for variances. We essentially can be able to build by right with that R1 and the C1 designation that we have. We have no problem doing that. There's a lot of comments out here that were saying that it's only a matter of, well, we made a bad investment. No, essentially, we're more than happy to be able to do that. Again, we're not going to be withheld to these certain requirements that the city is wanting us to be able to do annex. So that's when we had to look back and to be able to figure out a solution in order for us to be annexed into the city, because again, there's not a lot of comments about how this is going against the comprehensive plan, specifically having this property be R3. There was one comment that was mentioned that we already have enough R3 surrounding schools, but there's nothing in that plan that says that it can only be surrounded by 3 sites. I don't think that's kind of the interpretation of the writers for that. Along those lines, so as we were sitting here thinking of what we should do we want to be able to try to get annexed into the city with R1 and be withheld with the standards, or do we go to the county and be able to build by right there and easily be able to get our project done? Again, everyone keeps saying it's a bad investment, doesn't pencil out. Believe me, it does pencil out. Then it came up to the situation of, all right, if we want to be able to get in the annexed city, what is the best thing for them to be able to do? What exactly is the city asking for all developers, and what are they asking for us to be able to do to be able to be annexed into there? More importantly, essentially what this comes down to is that traffic light over on Highway 44 and Emmett Road. In order for us to make any contribution or have any significant impact to this light, we have to state R3. That puts it into two different lines. One, it matches the comprehensive plan, and two, in order for us to be able to do any sort of improvements with the infrastructure, this property needs to be R3. Otherwise, we'll just go to the county, and we have no problem with doing that, and there's gonna be no contributions made to that. The second issue that we have with this is, there was a comment made about like, well, why didn't Stonehaven, why didn't it have any of these other subdivisions around here? How come they have not contributed, or asked to be able to contribute to any of the lights around? And I share the exact same feeling with that. As we are one of the first developers that be able to come here and say that we will fund in full that Highway 44 light with the amount of money that we are donating, 1.3 million, including our $747,000 impact fees. It's over $2 million to be able to use for traffic fees. Now, everyone keeps saying that we need to be able to have our infrastructure in place. But I will tell you what, as soon as development stops or slows in growing.
It's real important here that I keep you in the channel of rebuttal and not a new presentation. I'm starting to hear, well, we're gonna have another presentation here. If you'll stay in the channels of rebuttal, I'll give you lots of leeway.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Connor.
In order for, okay, where was I just?
I apologize.
I believe it was impact fees, I appreciate that. But again, the reason why the comment with, why did not Stonehaven or any of these other R3 subdivisions contribute any sort of financial impact or anything like that other than impact fees to these subdivisions, because they weren't required to. That is why, for us to be able, why we were asking for R3 is we wanted to be able to make an actual significant contribution to the city to one of, honestly, the number one pressing issue right now. And that is the highway traffic, the 44 light. And so that's why we're asking that tonight. We want, as council members, to be able to set the precedent in order for developers to come in here, and if they want to be able to do high density, make them contribute, not only in their impact fees of what we are doing. We're not asking for any sort of variations or reduction in impact fees, but make them understand that, get to the level that we are as far as contributing towards the growth of the city of Middleton. Otherwise, it's gonna take, again, 2035, 2040 for any sort of improvement with our infrastructure without having these developers come in and contributing their fair share. Now, regarding the school capacity, again, I cannot stress enough that this project itself is, we're throwing everything that we have towards that light. Everything that we're able to contribute. Now, the $147,000 that we are going to the school system, I understand, it's not a lot. Now, the number, we can only go off of the numbers that have given us from the superintendent. A portable classroom, just quick comment, at least what they have documented is $125,000, but that's not the point. My point here is that in order for us to be able to make any contribution, where the city of Middleton will be able to see some sort of actual impact and see some sort of improvement, unless if they want to wait 10 other developers to be able to come in. In order for us to do that, we had to devote all of our resources towards that light and be able to make that contribution. I would love to be able to, help pass a bond to be able to come through here, or pay directly $20 million, whatever it was, to be able to build a school. We just simply can't. All we're asking is we're contributing our part of the end with this light. Again, the number one issue that's coming in within this specific area, and then we ask future developers, if this light's constructed because we're able to fund this, because we are funding this, maybe then the precedent is set that they have to contribute significantly more to the school systems. But we can't not do both. Right now, I'll give it to Carl if you would like to add anything.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. I made a mistake in this hearing. You were signed up for an affirmative testimony, and I didn't give you a chance.
What's all that weight
So, council, do I need to reopen public hearing or let him be part of rebuttal?
So if you're okay being part of rebuttal and sticking to
My apologies earlier,
No
Carl.
apology necessary.
Go ahead and you can finish up under the rebuttal, guys. And again, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Carl Anderson, 505 South 7th in Caldwell. And a little background on the rebuttal. I've been part of the Middleton school system by default. Shane Anderson started teaching in Middleton in 1980. She taught until 1993. She passed of cancer. She was highly thought of enough that there's a memorial at the middle school. So I've been around the district a long time, and I've got a lot of friends that have taught here. And you guys are doing a good job on the education. There's no question about that. I think on the rebuttal side is we're offering a solution to a real problem. No one has wanted to put any money up in the development community. We're putting up a substantial amount. That money is able to get to the light. That light is going to affect not only the city of Middleton residents, but the county residents. And, everybody needs to be heard. However, your body represents the city of Middleton citizens. And I hope that you put your priority to that. And I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for Carl? Thank you, Carl. Again, I apologize. Probably worked out best
No,
anyway.
just fine.
Okay. Council, that concludes rebuttal. There's a time for, we're gonna close this portion of the hearing at 7:50. You're welcome to call up staff to cover any additional questions or discussion and action.
Council, I'll start the discussion. If you have questions, staff, call them up. For me, it's pretty simple. This application looks similar to the application you saw before. We asked specifically for one thing, or we would, just take a real serious look at it. It hasn't changed. So, based on my previous statements about entrances, emergency vehicle access, how it ties in with the surrounding areas, how it flows, I stand behind my original comments. Councilman Merritt?
Councilman Kaiser, there's a couple of things that I want to reiterate on. And the light seems to be a big stumbling block for people. It occurs to me that ITD will be installing lights as they come marching through town, whether we like it or not. And I don't think it'll be 2043 before it shows up. I know that the legislature is currently working on impact fees for schools. That will be a discussion this year. So if you've got a problem with what you're paying for the schools now, just wait until that impact fee comes in and see what that looks like. So to me, their arguments don't hold water. I'm sorry, but I'm not impressed.
Councilman Murray?
I'm just going to piggyback on Tim and say I'm not holding my breath for the legislature, but
I wouldn't either.
I'll ditto the two of you.
Councilwoman Huggins?
So, I would agree with Councilman O'Mara that the light is kind of the topic. And that is, I've always felt that particular intersection was outside of our jurisdiction. I mean, I think it could easily be 10 to 15 years before ITD gets around to that. Because simply, they're traffic engineers. I think it'll be a while before their model shows it's necessary. And so I do think it's down the road. I don't think I heard anything tonight that sways me to think it's worth the trade-off for what they're asking. That being said, I want it to be really clear that that intersection at Emmett and Highway 44 is gonna stay exactly the same as it is right now. It will get worse. Those are part of these decisions. I'm not in a fantasy land that intersection is gonna be fine. It won't be. I do think it'll be 15 years from budgeting standpoints and everything else. And our residents will just have to learn how to navigate that and be patient and make sure they're not the reason an accident is caused. But I didn't hear anything that swayed me from the prior decision.
All right, council, then I'll make the motion. I move that we deny the application by J&J Johnson LLC and Ag Land and Development LLC for annexation rezone preliminary plat and development agreement with respect to the Pheasant Heights subdivision located at 23854 Emmett Road, 13236 Greenwell Lane, and 0 Emmett Road, Middleton, Idaho.
Second.
Motion by Kaiser, second by O'Meara. Any more discussion? Roll call.
Council President Kaiser.
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins.
Yes.
Councilmember Murray.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Meara.
Yes.
That is unanimous, and this application is denied. We'll go to action item number 9, consider approving an ordinance number 687, forming a local improvement district committee. And Councilman Murray, this is yours.
It is, and I'm gonna ask if anybody who spoke about infrastructure and the need for it, don't quietly get up and sneak out right now, because this is important. Todd? I can say your name correctly, Onya Bene, so you.
Thank you.
So, Douglas, would you care to cover what a lid is and what the abilities of it are?
Yeah, so Mayor, Councilman Murray, all covered in broad strokes. A local improvement district is a district formed by action of the council for the purpose of funding infrastructure improvements. So there are properties that are included and excluded, and you generate an infrastructure list of what you intend to improve or construct, and then it's typically a sort of a 10-year window. You pay for the improvements up front, you can bond for them, is my understanding, and then the properties in the district pay over a period of 10 years, pay off the bond.
Excuse me, Douglas.
Yeah.
Could you hold your voices down, please? I have really bad hearing, and I'm trying to listen to Douglas. Thank you.
So an example of this would be a version of this that you may be familiar with is some jurisdictions have sort of annual or biannual sidewalk improvement, local improvement districts, where they essentially issue a call out to the public and say, if you are interested in having your sidewalk improved to meet ADA standards, or if it's degraded, then they can sign up for a local improvement district, and a contractor is hired to come fix all the sidewalks for the properties that have signed up, and then that assessment goes on their property, and over the course of 10 years they pay off the cost of the sidewalk. So that's a version of it. Another version would be if there is some piece of infrastructure that the council deems is necessary at a particular location, they could propose a local improvement district to fund that improvement, whatever it may be, and then there's a string of hearings, and in general, my understanding is that if 2/3 of the people in the district object, that the district can't move forward. But so there's a component of it that's voluntary in the sense that people can propose a district, There's a level of sort of direct democracy in the sense that the number of people who are in favor or opposed to the district has an impact on whether it goes forward. But in general, it is a way for, it's sort of like a bond, an additional levy to be placed over the period of 10 years against properties in the district to fund infrastructure in that area. They have one of the unique features of them is they can be multi-jurisdictional. So jurisdictions can cooperate in the creation of them. If there was between Middleton and say Caldwell, some, be it roadway or bridge or something that needed to be improved, I'd say the county was there too. In theory, you could have a district that encompassed Middleton proper, Canyon County, City of Caldwell proper, to help fund that improvement. So anyway, those are broad strokes. If I missed something or you have specific questions, I'm happy to try. But
No, you just broad strokes what I was looking for. So for anyone who's not aware, these developments that go in, we charge them impact fees or we ask for infrastructure improvements, right? Well, state law only allows us to ask them to pay for or cover their impact on existing infrastructure. So if these are our needs, right, and our infrastructure is here, we cannot charge them to catch us up. So there's a gap that exists. How that gap got there, we could debate, but this is the current year. I can't be held accountable for what happened 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. I do know there's a gap that we need to close. And one of the few tools that will allow us to do that is a lid. So I asked that we create a committee to begin the process of forming a local improvement district through which we can address all kinds of projects. We can address intersections, land acquisition for new roads so that we can connect east to west. Right now we only have what? Purple Sage and Main Street. Roundabouts, park improvements, connecting the existing trail system where there's gaps. There's a million things that we can do with it. Everybody here will say we need infrastructure. This is the tool. And I want people involved. There's going to be a committee with, according to this ordinance right here, 3 county residents, 2 city residents, 2 council members, and 1 member from the commercial development community so that we can get input in terms of what might help entice commercial to come to this town, which is a property tax debate, which I'll be perfectly happy to have with anybody after this. So that's the intent here, is to help catch us up on our infrastructure. We're not talking about just taxing city residents. We're talking about, ideally, it's not formed yet, this is going to be my recommendation to the committee, the entire Middleton School District plus south of the river to Lincoln Road, which is where we currently have developments. So rather than having, say, 10 or 11,000 people footing the bill for infrastructure for 35 to 40,000 people, you're going to have all 35 to 40,000 people contributing to the infrastructure that's needed. And I think that covers about what I need to say. Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question. Collected with property tax,
Mm-hmm.
a line item, just like everything else. Okay.
Yeah, just like your mosquito abatement or your Canyon County. Yeah. I mean, it's my understanding. Douglas, is that correct?
yeah, it is not a property tax, but it does show up on your bill.
Shows up on a line.
Yeah, I think it would be the equivalent maybe of like a school bond levy where it's
Would be a
segregated.
levy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then funneled through the city.
Mayor, Council President Kaiser, yeah, my understanding of how it would work is that those would be turned over by the county to the city, and they'd be used to service whatever the debt was on the infrastructure.
Just like the parks.
Yep.
Okay. So this creates the committee to create.
It gets the ball rolling
And
and
starts the process.
the committee will come up with a list of improvements that things are necessary or a big enough want in the community that they're worth considering, narrow it down, work out costs, and then bring it to council for approval, and then go forward from there.
All right. Works for me. Give people a voice.
I'm good with this.
All right.
So does there need to be an ordinance written, Douglas, or you're asking them to approve ordinance 687. So does it need to be read in or written, or where's that at?
Sure, Mayor. So the ordinance is drafted and my understanding was included in the packet. It was available online, and so it would be like any other ordinance that would be. It starts with an obligation to be read in full 3 times. There's the regular rules on waiving those. The ordinance itself creates a home in the code that establishes the committee, defines its membership, defines the appointment process, says when it meets, not dissimilarly from the Impact Fee Advisory Committee or, anyway, that's what the code itself does.
Can I say something, Mayor?
If you speak into the microphone, speak up.
Okay, you have a copy of the ordinance in your folder. If you'd like to give it to Council President Kaiser, he can read the title.
I have it right.
Okay, never mind.
Thanks, Jenica.
So I don't see a meeting time yet. Because that would be defined in the ordinance, correct?
So, Mayor, Council
Date
President
and time.
Kaiser, that does not have to be defined in the ordinance. It can be adopted by resolution of the committee at their first meeting, or the council could set that by resolution.
Gotcha.
This is it's a first preliminary step to create a framework, and I'm not aware of any other committee that exists that's like this, so it will be exploring both the way it operates itself and then also the ultimate objectives of the committee. So this is meant to give latitude to the committee and to the council to support that sort of fact-finding enterprise, and has less strict definitions than you might find if there were statutory requirements about a committee like this, like the Impact Fee Advisory Committee.
Gotcha. Okay. Just making sure, do it once, do it right, do it once. All right, then I move we read ordinance number 687 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Kaiser, second by O'Meara. All in favor say, or excuse me, second by Murray. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please go ahead.
Ordinance number 687 reads, an ordinance enacted by the Middleton City Council amending Title I, Chapter 5, creating Section 1-5-8 of the Middleton City Code pertaining to the creation of a local improvement district advisory committee, providing for an effective date, providing for servability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewithin. I move we waive the 3 reading rule and adopt ordinance number 687.
Second.
Motion by Kaiser, second by O'Meara. We better roll call this one.
Council President Kaiser.
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins.
Yes.
Councilmember Murray.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Meara.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Okay, anything else to do on that one, Douglas?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Council comments?
Public comments, Mayor?
Public comments, we gotta do that first. Huh? There's a lot of public here tonight. So we're gonna grab that sheet.
Jenica, I think you might want to sign up.
Yes. Okay. Give me one and take the other one back there, and we'll get him signing in. All right, first up is Tyson Sparrow.
I just had a general comment. I just wanted to come tonight and say thank you to you, Mayor Wolf, for the 4 years of service that you've provided this community. We may not have seen eye to eye, but one thing that I appreciate about you is you're approachable. And you've always been kind enough to give me some clarification and direction as far as what's been going on. I just want to thank you for your service to this community, and I appreciate you. And Ms. Huggins, I just want you to know that you're a phenomenal person. I think that 12 years of service to this community is very much appreciated by me. Again, the same thing. You've always been approachable, even when we disagree.
When did we agree?
What's that?
When did we agree?
No, but
It's always been easy to have a conversation with you and be able to not see eye to eye and still maintain a good relationship. So thank you for your many years of service to this community. It's very much noted and appreciated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sparrow. Let's see, we've got people here that testified on Pheasant Heights. Were you wanting general comments too, Mr. Crosley, or did you kind of sign up on too, thinking you're signing up for Pheasant Heights? He's got some general comments. All right.
So, Mayor, we go back a long way, and appreciate all you've done here, and council, thank you for your wisdom tonight. All of us really appreciate it, and you know, I think it's very, very positive for members of the community when we see the system work, and so thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Roy Thweet, you were signed up.
I kind of double lettered.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of what I was giving us the opportunity to. Thanks. How about Scott Poole? Okay, I think Scott might have slipped out, but
Scott's here, and actually, if you don't mind,
oh, no,
I might as well sit.
you got
Scott Poole, 13274 Broadway.
Go for
I
it.
wasn't up here before. First of all, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for your service to the community. It's really deeply appreciated, and it takes a lot to give up your evenings and serve this community. And personally, just very grateful for your willingness to do so. So thank you very much. Councilman Murray, I think this is an absolute brilliant plan. This is a very difficult thing to bring what was happened in the past, where you guys weren't even a part of, and try to bring it back up to the present. And there's really not a lot of good ways to do that. This is a really good way. So I concur with all of you in that. I think this is a brilliant way to get this thing started, and I appreciate that you've encompassed not just the few people that are in the city, but included all the county people as well, who all participate, but we really have no say. I live in the county, and I really have no say as far as voting in the city goes. But this is my community, and I shop here, and I live here, and we drive our cars here, and we do everything else here. So I feel like I should be a part of that as well and pay my fair share. So I think this is a brilliant idea, and I want to thank you for bringing this to the council's attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other person who wishes to have some public comment? Yeah, we got another. All right, go ahead. It is Ronkin, Howard Ronkin.
Yes, Howard Ronkin, 551 7th Street, Middleton. I had the pleasure of hearing this idea from Councilmember Murray at that meet and greet a couple of weeks ago. Simply brilliant idea. Comment would be, our city attorney said you're not aware of this ordinance existing in a neighboring community. Your experience with it is not very extensive, but I'll ask, what type of research have we already done to learn from possible mistakes, and more importantly, the positive steps that it takes to institute a lid? If other communities, especially being in such a rural part of the state, this may have very well been explored, implemented, a lot of refinement already done by neighboring communities that understand the same issues we might be dealing with here. So I'll encourage, exploration of the local communities, especially the demographically very much like Middleton. But thank you very much for bringing it to the council and other people's public awareness. I think it's an awesome idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ronkin. Alan Trimble.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Mayor, thanks for your service the last 4 years. I really like this idea here from Mr. Murray, the LIDS committee. I think it could help close the gap that we always struggle with as far as money and who's going to pay for what. So if you need any help, give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Anybody else want to testify tonight? All right, now we'll close public testimony at 8:12 and open it up to council comments. Mr. O'Meara?
Mayor Rule, again, I must reiterate what our public's been saying, and thank you for your service, you and Carrie both. I do have a couple of issues that I've noticed in the past few months, and it was pointed out to me really significantly yesterday driving through town that school traffic is our biggest concern. And right now the school traffic completely stops for the buses to exit the middle school. It takes 15 minutes to get all them buses out of there. So traffic through town is completely blocked. There's no way around for emergency vehicles. So Councilman Murray's idea may help us correct some of those problems. And I really think that we need to do something with the school traffic. It's not just the students crossing the street, it's the buses. It's the parents coming to pick up kids. I think we need to get that off of 44 and around behind the school, like we've been discussing. Also, a little more improvement on the right turn lane at the stoplight on Ridley's. I see people blow through that in the right-hand lane constantly. I'd like to see ITD come and put up the little round bumpers so that you can see where you're supposed to turn to improve those arrows. I know the signage is there, but people are ignoring it. Also, the backup that's caused there from the stoplight still blocks the fire department's access. I'd like to see us proceed with some type of lighting system or improved marking for that do not stop in this area signage. So that's really all I've got right now.
All right, good points, Councilman. Any other comments?
Councilman Murray.
Councilman Murray?
Mark, you've got some really big shoes to fill. And I am going to really, really miss my neighbor here. This town has been blessed by having her serve it. You can disagree with her all day and night, but the quality of the human being sitting next to me is rarely matched. So I just want to say, Carrie, thank you for being my friend. And I hope you have fun when you don't have to come here anymore.
Gonna have a lot more fun out there.
Councilman Rogers?
Just thank you, council. I've been part of a council with a lot of different people, come away with it, always with a new way of looking at something. Mayor Rule, thank you for the last 4 years. As people who have lived here for a long time, Middleton is changing. We moved here in '93. I'm gonna just kind of go into my little speech here, since this will be the last time I get to give my little speech. Moved here in '93, moved from the Seattle area. I knew then that from Mountain Home to Ontario, eventually, it would be solid. I lived in Coeur d'Alene. I have seen what happens. I know that growth will come. And I was excited for Middleton to grow. I was excited to see the people who moved in here move in here. Wanted it to be a walkable city, wanted it to have parks. Knew that the school does a great job with sports. That's why we went with the skate park. The school does a great job with sports, Park and Recs does a great job with sports. That doesn't hit everybody. So I just hope it continues to expand to meet everyone's needs as best as it can. And I think you guys do a great job. And thank you for the recognitions. Please tell staff thank you. They have been a great, they have been through a lot, and they have been a great staff.
Any other, Mr. Chairman?
Couple things. A lot of people asked why they got to come back and give did this development come back? It's their right by state law. They pay the fee, they come back. I see a lot of people shaking their head, but I see a lot of people asking the same question, why did they get to come back 3 times? That's why, just so you guys understand. So that's their right. There's a lot of talk tonight about all the development and stuff, and I think people need to understand we're seeing development. Let's take Toll Brothers for example. Does anybody in the room know when Toll Brothers was approved? Because it was really originally Coleman Homes. 2003?
Well,
2005?
It had
Before the economic
4
downturn?
homes
5?
before the economy tanked. They were just getting started,
So,
so it had to be
yeah,
approved.
so
a couple years
that
before
build out that you guys are seeing, none of us sat here. And a whole bunch of you did not either, because your homes weren't built yet. So just understand that when we're dealing with growth and they talk about what's going on. It's a couple of gentlemen have left when they talked about my last point on this one, and it's a little negative, Nelly, but guy stood up and said that we have failed the school district. I thought that was interesting when the voters have shot down every bond since the high school. And I encourage everybody to reach out and check. You can look to see not who voted what, but where your percentages of yes and no votes come. And I can tell you that the city supports bonds better than the county in terms of with the Middleton School District. I encourage you to go look at that. When we talk about county people wanting to support, well, let's support it then. So I'll get off that negative Nelly trend. But
You inspired me, Rob, come on.
all right, Councilman Murray.
I'm going to piggyback on Rob's comments and point out that under existing state law, school capacity is not a valid reason for denial. We have no legal grounds currently under state law to say, no, our schools don't have capacity. You're looking at me funny. I promise you, I can give you the loop on the Local Land Use Planning Act, I promise. It does give us the ability to write an ordinance to take that into account ourselves. But the fact of the matter is, and actually Rob and I and the city attorney have one waiting on standby. It's at the low ready, it's down here. It will only have the desired effect if Middleton, Star, and Canyon County can all do something similar enough in nature. Because if we pass an ordinance to protect our schools, they turn around and they go to county, or they go to the city of Star if they have land on the east side of the county. And it still goes in, the students still go to our schools, we don't get any tax revenue to pay for the maintenance of our infrastructure. So it seems like it's a really simple conversation of, well, just say no. It's not that simple, it's never that simple. And I am more than happy to have that conversation with any one of you, at your home, at my home, at the coffee place, at the pizza place, I don't care where. Give me a call, more than happy.
All right, and I'll echo, I've sat next to Carrie for a long time. I'm actually up here because of her. That's a whole long story. Very long story, 12 years ago. Not 12 years ago, 10 years ago now, with that. And thank Mayor Rule too. After sitting here for a while, second mayor and stuff, it did a great job. He did a great job. We had a lot of, you don't understand in my role, I also do city bills, but I also meet with the mayor a lot. We go over agendas, we talk about a lot of what's going on in the city, things on the agenda, things that don't make the agenda, those type of things. And so it's been a great 4 years for me. We've had some very good discussions about the direction of the city. And so I will miss that time. And wish him the best of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's all I got.
Any other council comment?
See you on the golf course.
I'll make just a few and we'll get out of here. But after 4 years, I gotta take a minute, thank staff. This is what Carrie's talking about, that being Becky Crofts I describe her as mostly a lawyer, mostly an accountant, mostly an engineer, but she is our city administrator. It's incredible talent. But before there was Becky here helping me immensely, was Jenica and Wendy. When I showed up, that's who was here helping me and helping me get introduced to city politics from county politics, which are all not adverse, but they miss a lot. Counties and cities are sort of plotted against each other by code and law. Roberta, Lisa, Amber, Sharon, Billy Babol, and Chris Grooms. Chris Grooms is as good a guy as there is walking around this valley. Jason, our public works directors, super good guy. Those are most all the staff, except people like Lori the librarian. She is a darling lady. She slipped out. I wish she was still here, but absolutely great. I appreciate the regular people who show up and participate in the city process. Mike Grafe and Janet, the Gibsons, Jim Taylor, Christensen. When there's nothing on the agenda, those people are here. I would include all the regular people who show up and appreciate it. You're part of the solution, not the problem, and that's the truth. I would be remorse if I didn't talk about Sergeant Hilke and Chief Smith. Man, I had complaints about the police department a lot. There were problems. And then Chief Smith came in, and Hilke have been stellar. They're great, and good job. You know, there are other superstars out in the community. Hess, CoFed, they're not getting any credit for the progress that's making on solving traffic problems. But they're a big part of the solution. So I'd say well job to those kind of people too. But as good as there are, there's this city council. I voted one time in 4 years, and it wasn't on land use at all. It was on something else. And so you guys are really the backbone, the spine, the brains of the whole deal. It's city council that does the work, and you guys, I recognize that. And I'm really, a mayor's nothing without a strong city council. And you guys did the heavy lifting in the work. Tim O'Meara, nobody's probably been got more hours of service in this community for city people as well as county people. When you get down to hours served, man, the list gets pretty short when it gets up in your area. And Garner was good. I like Jeff Garner. Murray's carving his way into the political scene. Kerry Huggins, you know, what can I possibly say except, you know, you're probably the best city councilman Middleton's ever had. If you're not, Kaiser is. So good job. A grand of a man. Appreciate you all. All right. It is 8:26 and we're done with city council. Thank you all.